Hello, Southwest Florida homeowners and homebuyers. Welcome to the 239 Real Estate Roundtable podcast, your go-to source for navigating the vibrant real estate landscape of our beautiful region. I'm your host, Kevin Tremmel, a local real estate agent, leader, and investor here in Southwest Florida. On this podcast, we bring you insights from best in the business, top-notch real estate professionals, seasoned agents, and experts of everything from homeowners insurance to mortgages, maintenance, and repairs. Whether you're a first-time homebuyer or a seasoned homeowner, we've got you covered with tips, strategies, and valuable insights to make your journey in Southwest Florida's real estate market a breeze. Get ready to unlock the doors to successful home ownership. This is the 239 Real Estate Roundtable podcast, where we demystify the process, share insider knowledge, and ensure you're well equipped to make informed decisions. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the 239 Real Estate Roundtable. Today, we have a very special guest. Angela Rizzi is a luxury property specialist with William Ravis in Naples, Florida. She's known as the Real Estate Matchmaker. Angela also leads her own team of 5 agents called the Angela Rizzi team, and she's ranked among the top 1.5% of realtors in the United States. Welcome to the show, Angela.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So, Angela, why don't we get started? Why don't you tell us and the audience a little bit more about your story? How did you get into real estate and why?
Okay, sure. So all started back in, I actually got my license back in 1992. I was very young at the time, in my early 20s. I had just moved to Miami and I didn't know anybody. So I didn't really do much in the real estate business then. So definitely was not really in the business. I ended up starting another company, was an event staffing company and brand marketing for the beverage industry. And I did that for 25 years. So I didn't really get fully into real estate until I moved to Naples 7 years ago and found it to be a much different market than Miami was, and definitely kind of on the upswing of becoming an area people were just starting to know about. And so it was really good timing. And yeah, and here I am ever since then.
Awesome. So you moved from Miami to Naples 2016, sounds like, and the end of 2017. Gotcha. And yeah, I would agree. That was probably like right around the time when Naples went from being a very seasonal town, right? Like from June to October, there really wasn't much going on, to becoming, I'm sure you would agree with this, it's becoming less and less seasonal. You got big employers and big companies, and it's just, someone where everybody wants to be like year round. So that you had perfect timing there, I guess.
Yes, absolutely.
And then, Angela, tell us a little bit about your brokerage, William Ravis. What do you like about them, and how long have you been with them, and which brokerages? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I started with William Ravis about 4 years ago, right at the start of COVID. So great time to start with a new firm. And Ravis was probably about 2 years on the scene here in Southwest Florida when I joined them. So it was still a very new company, but they had already established themselves as a luxury brokerage and had, was getting a lot of market share already in Port Royal and areas like that. So I really love the idea that William Ravis was a family business, started in the Northeast where I'm originally from, and they just kept growing. And there's currently now 9 states, just brought on South Carolina. And it was interesting because so many people moved from the Northeast to Florida. And so it was just a natural fit. I knew a lot of the people that went over to the company, and it was a really good fit for me. I really love what they offer. They're very hands-on as far as they want to give the salespeople everything that they can to be successful. So it's like they're in business with us. So it's not just, we just want agents to come on board and do your own thing. They offer a lot of tools. Marketing is key. Coming from a marketing background, I just found that they really had all the high-tech tools, and they continuously grow, keep getting named, accolades of different awards and so forth, the #1 brokerage right now. And it's just been a great experience.
Nice. Do you know how many, and if not, that's fine. Do you know how many agents Ravis has in Southwest Florida approximately? Like,
Total, there's about 4,500 throughout the company. That's like 140 offices, 9 states. In Florida, I'm not sure. We have offices in Naples and then in the Palm Beach area. And I'm not really sure exactly how many just in
Okay.
Florida.
Okay, but 4,500, 9 states, like company wide. Yeah.
Right.
So definitely more, by no means small, but definitely more boutique style when you compare it to Coldwell and Keller Williams,
Exactly.
EXP.
Yes.
So
We are part of the leading RE companies of the world, so we were invited as a member to that. So we do have the network throughout the world. So that was an important thing too, because I do get referrals from everywhere. So it's
Yeah.
important to be part of a group that not just a national company that's nationwide, but being part of the leading RE companies of the world that really, it's a very prestigious group to be with and a lot of reach in it. So that was important.
Yeah, of course, important, especially in a place like Naples, right, where we get clients and people from all over the world looking at real estate. So I'm sure that's been helpful. So you were a top entrepreneur in the marketing industry and did that for a long time. Kind of share with us a little bit like about your journey, like how did you transition from marketing? I'm sure that's helped you with marketing yourself and your team and your listings. How did you transition from marketing to becoming a very successful real estate agent?
Yeah, so one thing I always tell people when they look at real estate, people kind of downplay, oh, you're a realtor, everybody's a realtor. I hear that all the time, and it can be degrading, like, downplaying somebody's profession, but I mean, I get it. Some people just get their license and they don't really do anything with it. But coming from a business background, especially marketing, but any business really, having that experience of running a business is something that's so critical for somebody that wants to go into real estate as a career, because you are running your own business. It's being an entrepreneur. You have to do everything, every aspect of a business. So you have to understand financing your business. You have to be able to put money into it and spend money to make money, just like any other business. Branding, constant branding. You see big name companies out there spending tons of money in advertising. You don't just advertise something one time and then expect people to remember and know who you are. So it's constant advertising, marketing, and then marketing your properties in addition to marketing yourself. I mean, there's a lot in running a business. There's a lot in real estate that people don't understand. They think it's just, oh, I just sell homes. And there's so much more to it. So that's coming from a business already and being an entrepreneur, having a real estate business really was so much easier for me because I had that knowledge and that background and mindset already.
Yeah, awesome. That makes a lot of sense. I feel like a lot of people, for me, it was kind of the other way around. Like when I got into general, I already knew a lot about like real estate and sales and like that aspect. So what I had to learn was more like the business side of it, right? Accounting, financing, marketing, admin stuff, legalities. For you, it seems like it was kind of the other way around, right? Like you already knew the business side of things. You maybe
Right.
just had to learn a little bit about the actual like real estate intricacies when you first started. Obviously, now you're an expert. You've been doing this forever. But yeah, that makes sense. That's very, very interesting. And let's talk about investing a little bit. I know you were also an avid real estate investor ever since the 90s, then 08, 09 happened. So tell us a little bit about that. And what I'd also like to know, and what I think the audience would be interested for the audience, because I get this asked a lot in Lee County, are there any areas like in Collier County that are seeing a very big surge in investment activity that you've seen?
So when I first started, I bought my first property when I was 24. And right after that, I said, oh, wow, this is great being in real estate and buying a property. I wasn't really selling at that time, but so I bought an investment property as a rental. And then the bug just kind of went from there. I started doing investments in pre-construction and then holding it throughout the build and then either flipping it or renting it and holding it for a little while. So that worked out great. I did really well with that up until 2008. And like everybody, people got a little greedy and held too many properties and the market fell out. And that was very, very painful lesson for me because I had a lot of properties. I couldn't rent them. I couldn't sell them. And that taught me don't invest in something unless you have the money to do it. So back then I had great credits. You know how that went. Banks were like, oh yeah, here, you can buy 2 homes. I got caught up in that mess and learned a lot from it and really held back from investing for many years. Now I'm starting to use some of what I learned from and say, okay, now I'm ready to buy an investment property or something for rental. But what I learned from that was really know what you're doing. Like, look at the market. Don't just listen to what people tell you on different sources and say, oh, everybody needs to own real estate. Not really. I mean, you need to know what you're getting into. You need to know if you're going to be a landlord, what it's going to be to have the resources to fix things that go wrong, because they will go wrong. I've had bad tenants. I had a tenant in a brand new house that ended up making it like I don't even know what it was, but there was a bullet hole in the front door. There was, I mean, all kind of crazy stuff going on. And it was a brand new house. So I
This was in
lost a
Miami.
lot. Yes,
That explains
yes.
a lot. No, I'm just kidding.
So, you have to be willing to withstand the losses like that. And especially if you don't own the property and the bank does, the bank's going to want their property back. So that's something really important that people need to understand. I mean, I know there's a lot of shows out there, oh, everybody should invest in real estate, and that's not necessarily the case. So I've become much more conservative in that regard of not biting off more than I can chew and being very quick to make sure that I'm looking at everything that could go wrong, not just what could go right.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
yeah, I guess that was the most important that I learned in that. And then as far as the market right now, so we're kind of at a weird place right now. We're actually about where we were in 2019 as far as inventory and so forth. These prices are still, they're way up compared to 2019, but time on the market, we're upticking every day now, a little bit more time on the market. There's almost 8 months of inventory. Some communities have much more, some communities less, so it really depends. So I wouldn't say there's a specific area that is, a great area to look into investing. But what I would say is research the areas that have less inventory and more opportunity on the upside. Because we are going through correction right now, which, like anything, what goes up eventually comes down. So I don't think we're going to see anything near what happened in past, the 2008 time. But I think will be a lot more buying opportunities coming very soon. We're starting to see them now. Condos, single family homes, even some communities were really oversold, and there's a lot of people that are looking to downsize now because the rates went up so much, because of insurance went up. So yeah, there's going to be opportunity. There's some now, but I think we're going to see a lot more.
Yeah, at least until Jerome Powell decides to give us a break and lower the rates again. But
yeah, and that's something too that people are really looking at the rates as being, oh my God, the rates are so high. My first house that I bought was 11%. And I thought, oh, wow, that's what it was at the time. So that's, you calculate that into the affordability of the payment, or you got to take everything into consideration as far as payment, insurance, taxes, all that. But, we're fortunately in a great state where we do have a lot of benefits of ownership with the homestead exemption and so forth. I mean, anytime's a good time to buy if it's right for you. It has to be the right circumstances, and you have to be able to afford what you're buying. But rates come down, you can always refinance. I always say, well, a great quote that our mortgage person, Melissa with William Ravis, always says is, marry the house, date the rate. So it's like, you're going to get into a house, you can't renegotiate what you paid for that house once you pay for it, but you can always renegotiate the rate.
Yeah, and I'm on that team as well. The team with date the rate and marry the house, because, like you said, that when you sign, technically it's locked in for 30 years, but you can always refinance into a different loan at a lower rate, right? Like you said, you can never go back and buy your house for less money or renegotiate the deal. And yeah, it's interesting. I think people have just gotten used to, especially like my generation, right? Like we've gotten so used to rates in the 2s and 3s and low 4s. And I did a little exercise a couple months ago where there's a great resource by the St. Louis Federal Reserve. They have like all this crazy data, and I studied finance, so I'm all about data and all that stuff. So I went back and I averaged the last 50 years of interest rates, and turns out like the average interest rate over the last 50 years is like 7.5, right? So we're
right
like
there
right now. Yeah, we're not even, it's just, this is normal. Right. I think where it gets tricky for a lot of people is the little bit higher rates compare or in relation with the higher prices, right? That's kind of
Right.
where it gets rates and prices, because you said your first house was 11%, and you factored that into the affordability, right? And I think that's a big reason why we're seeing this price correction right now, at least in our market. Nothing to worry about. I think a lot of realtors were expecting this, and you're up 30% in 3 years, you're down whatever 10% in a year, you're still up 20% in 3 years. So, look at the bigger picture, right? But, I'm definitely with you. If you can afford it right now, it's a good time to buy, because long term, and real estate is a long term, you might not make $100,000 in a year on your equity, but long term, it should pan out, especially in a high growth area like Collier County, Lee County, and similar places, of course, across the country. But I'd like to kind of know, so you do obviously all sorts of real estate, but it seems like you do have, being in Naples, being with William Ravis, you do have a focus on luxury real estate, that segment. What do you enjoy most about that segment besides looking at amazing, beautiful, pretty homes on a daily
What's not to
basis?
love with that, right? Truth be told, yes, luxury is great, higher price points, but I work in all different types of properties as well. I mean, it wasn't always starting out with luxury properties. And, I love the luxury properties, seeing the different designs and the upgrades and things like that, and what people do with them, and working with their interior designers and so forth. It's great. I would also say that I do enjoy working with first-time home buyers that are looking for their small single family or townhouse or something like that. So to me, that's very rewarding when you have somebody that's been renting and you can get them into a home to buy for the first time. To me, that's so rewarding, because I think most everybody benefits from owning a home at some point, unless you're constantly moving and so forth. That doesn't really make sense. But the benefits of home ownership, there's so much to it, between long-term appreciation, the tax deductions and so forth. And there's just so many things rather than renting. I mean, I've rented before, and it's like, you just don't feel like it's your house, and you never know if they're going to raise the rent when it comes time for renewal, or if they're not fixing things that need to be fixed. I mean, there's always the pride in home ownership. That's the American dream. So I do enjoy working with all segments, really. But yeah, luxury is fun. It's challenging, especially when there's a lot of inventory, trying to position it to market it the right way. We are seeing higher inventory now, so definitely we're pulling out our toolboxes and how to get homes sold. Whereas for a while, people got a little lazy with, you just put it on the MLS and it'll sell. So now we're back to, you actually have to earn your keep. You have to, do professional photos and do the drones and this and that. Actually, even when things were flying off the shelf, I still did professional photos. I still did drones, but not a lot of people did that. And to me, it's like that. It's like a moment in time that's captured. When you photograph that property, it's going to be on the internet forever.
Yeah.
So, that's one of my pet peeves in the industry, when people don't do what they should be doing to do justice for our customers. Spend the money, get professional photography, do the drones, do the videos, because that's their property and it's going to be out there forever. And spend the money. It's all part of the business.
Yeah, that's one of my, if not the biggest pet peeve as well, just like camera or iPhone pictures, right? Like the worst.
Drives me crazy.
Yeah, it's the worst.
I've seen luxury homes, 1.5 million with cell phone photos on the MLS. I'm like, oh my gosh, what were they thinking? Like, how was that customer not, how did they continue on with that listing? It's just, I'm not even talking in the time when homes are flying off the shelf, but even recently I've seen that, and it boggles my mind.
Yeah. And it goes back to earlier, you said that, oh, you're just a realtor, right? And I think those realtors are kind of what give those black sheep, or what give the professionals like a bad rep. And I'm sure you've heard the saying. I mean, it's definitely true here in Southwest Florida, just with the amount of realtors that we have. It might be true in other parts of the country as well, but that 10% of realtors do 90% of the business, and the other 90% of realtors do the rest of the 10%, right? And yeah, I mean, it's like within any industry, you have people that are more experienced, less experienced. So it is what it is. But one thing I want to touch on, you mentioned your toolbox, right? You got to get the toolbox out. And you mentioned professional photography and drone shots and that kind of stuff. Without giving away the secret sauce, maybe you can share one or two things, other things that are in your toolbox with you having a marketing background.
Always look for the features of the property that you're trying to market. So many homes are very similar to others. So you have to always look for that key thing that makes it stand out. Right now, there's a big attraction to multi-generational living because of the interest rates, because of the cost of living, inflation, and everything that's been driving pricing up. So we are seeing a lot more families moving back in with their younger children or even grandchildren and so forth, or grandparents moving in with families. So taking something like that as a opportunity to market as a multi-generational home, that's a good example of that. I do a lot of target marketing as far as like in communities, like I do farm communities, and I'm really strong into that because if you're an expert in something, that's what you really should focus on promoting yourself with. And as as a community expert, that's something that really makes you stand out in particular communities. Like for instance, a community that I farm, other realtors have gotten to know, hey, that's the go-to person for that community. And they call me when they can't find inventory in something, they call me, hey, do you have something coming up with this or that? And that's important. That's part of marketing yourself, part of marketing your expertise. I'm big in mailers because I think in this market in Naples, Southwest Florida, people like the touch and feel type promotional items. We still have people that read the actual hard printed paper in this
Naples
town.
Daily News.
Right, exactly. Or many other markets, they don't even have papers anymore.
Yeah.
So that just speaks to people like having those flyers. And you'd be surprised how many times people will call me while they're holding the flyer in my hand and reading information from it saying, oh, I didn't know this, this, and this. And it's interesting, it's a lot of money to send those, but it does pay off. And I always get freaked out about all the Zillow ad people that I don't get it, the mentality behind that. You're paying basically a competitor that's trying to put physical realtors out of business. You're feeding that. So I'm not into paying for ads, the Zillow and realtor.com and all that, because to me, that's not a sphere of influence that you have with people. Like they don't get to know you. They don't know, how do they even trust you by just looking at an ad? Call me, I'm an expert in nothing really.
Yeah.
So
right.
It's important to really know who you're marketing to and establish yourself, always be professional in what you're putting out there. And that's kind of my secret, is just really knowing the market, marketing appropriately for the product, whatever home it might be, and then being consistent. You don't want to just send a mailer one time and then you don't do it again because you didn't get results from it. It's something you got to keep doing over and over.
Yeah. So sounds like, so with the mailers, that seems to be the general consensus. It's very like you got to be consistent with it, right? You're not just going to send 200 mailers to a neighborhood and then get 50 calls and 25 listings, right? You got to be, like you said, position yourself as that neighborhood expert. And then it sounds like, so when you take the marketing approach, it's more quality over quantity. So versus Zillow leads, you like to do more personal stuff, higher end flyers consistently over time. That way, when somebody does have a thought about, hey, I should probably sell my home, like you're kind of top of mind. And just for kind of the audience listening that are not realtors, target marketing and farming, maybe you can explain that real quick.
Sure, yeah. So target marketing, like I was saying, specific neighborhoods. I'm established in a couple different neighborhoods and I consistently know what the inventory is at any given time, know, how long it's taken for homes to be sold. So doing mailers that target to those communities. So I farm different neighborhoods. That means consistently marketing to that neighborhood. So you set yourself as the expert of that neighborhood.
Yeah, awesome. And then one thing I also want to touch on you. So you said earlier you like luxury, but you also do first-time home buyer. It's very rewarding. I definitely agree with that. What have you, like in your opinion, what have you seen market correction, luxury versus more entry-level homes, if you can even call it that in Naples, right? But what have you seen? Has the entry-level market like kind of corrected first and like the luxury market is now getting to it, or was it kind of at the same time, or is it vice versa? Because I imagine obviously, high net worth individuals are affected by interest rates a little bit differently than a first-time home buyer would. They typically put more money down, so they're not quite as affected with interest rates. Most of them probably even pay cash. So, shed some light on that. Has it been a disconnect between the correction, luxury versus entry level, or?
No, not really. We do have a lot of cash buyers here. I'd say probably 60% of the transactions I do are cash.
Yep.
So as far as what I'm seeing currently, homes that are priced under $1 million seem to be going much more, in different neighborhoods seem to be selling quicker. It seems like the price point of like $1 million to 2 million are kind of pausing right now. And then over that, the luxury market is still selling. So that entry level market seems to be going very fast, up to 500,000, between 350 to 500, depending where it is. I mean, if it's a condo that has high fees, we've had some condos that have gone up tremendously in HOA fees because of the insurance, because of the last hurricane, if they're older. I'm a big fan of newer construction. I do a lot in new communities. So there you have, the higher standards of the builds. So the insurance is less, the HOAs are usually more manageable. Yeah, so I don't really see a specific area where, yes, they're definitely declining right now, or they're definitely not being affected. So it is spread out. It depends on the community too. Like some communities had much bigger increases than others, and those seem to be the ones that have a lot of inventory now because a lot of people are trying to pull out that equity and the upside from when they purchased it.
Right. But it does sound a little bit like that middle, like $1 million to 2 million is kind of pausing right now, like you said.
Yes.
And I'm seeing that too. And, little different price points in Lee County, but same concept. I think what's happening is entry level, first time buyer, that kind of stuff. I think people have come to terms with the rates and prices have come down. So they're like, hey, this is our opportunity, right? Like, let's get into home ownership. And then on the like other extreme of high end, what I was saying earlier, rates might not affect those individuals the same way. But I think that middle market where like we don't have to move, right? We own a home. It'd be nice to get into a bigger home, nicer home. I think rates are keeping a lot of people from making that move, right? Like you bought a home 4 years ago, you're at 3.5%. It'd be nice to have a new home, but you don't need it because you already have a home. And I think that's what you mean with that middle market, right? Like people are like, it's just not worth it, right? Like we'll wait.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing that up here in Lee County too. So that's interesting. And then you mentioned, as we know, real estate is not all rainbows and sunshine all the time. So you mentioned insurance rates, right? Kind of going up and after the hurricane. And that's definitely becoming an interesting aspect of real estate. So what I would like to ask you is kind of what are some common challenges that you see in the Southwest Florida real estate market? I know insurance is one of them and flood, which kind of goes into the insurance, but what are you seeing big challenges, on a daily basis?
The most that I'm seeing as far as challenges would be people not expecting a higher rate for insurance or condo fees. I know the condo market took a big hit during, first the Sunny Isles disaster with the collapse of the condo there. So that stemmed off the higher restrictions now, which I think is smart. They needed to do that because I'm sure some condos aren't managed as well as they should be or don't have the reserves. It's important that people that are buying know what those reserves are and they know how the financial stability of the particular unit. Because sometimes people don't really pay attention to that. They say, oh, this is the condo I want. I love how it looks and this and that. And they don't really do the due diligence to find out what is it really going to cost. Like, what if they aren't funded with their reserves? What kind of assessments can you be looking at? So that has really changed a lot in the condo market. I tend to do more single family homes, so that doesn't really affect what I do as much, but I still am very cognizant of it because I have customers that may be looking for that. And then the insurance, shop around. When you look for a home, it's important to see what type of mitigation elements it has to it that will help reduce the cost of insurance? Does it have impact windows, or better yet, accordion shutters that completely cover the window? Because apparently insurance is preferring that over even impact windows. So those kind of things, is it in a flood zone? Be prepared to have flood insurance. And I always say, even if it's not in a flood zone, still get flood insurance, because then it's usually very inexpensive and it's definitely worth that money. You never know what can happen. We're in Florida after all. So yeah, I think those are the two most challenging right now. I mean, interest rates, they go up and down, at this particular point in time. Yes, it's a little challenging, but I mentioned the toolbox. There's a lot of things that can be done too, even with the rates, especially that mid-level or entry-level home buyer. Surprisingly, there's a lot of FHA loans out there that people don't even know about, that a house could be listed and the agent doesn't know that it was an FHA loan that's assumable, since they're all assumable. And I just had one recently that had a 2.5% FHA assumable loan. So it can be challenging because that buyer will still have to usually come out of pocket for the difference in the money. You can get a second mortgage, but it's usually not cost effective to do that. So there's that, looking for lower rate assumables. There's buying the interest rate down. That's a tool that I use a lot with sellers. Offer to buy the interest rate down for the first 2 years. And that's great, because in 2 years, hopefully we should see rates much lower. I mean, that's what we're all expecting, but who knows what happens in this crazy world. But we all kind of predict that it will eventually come down.
Yeah, it's glad you brought that up. I feel like a lot of people don't know about the things you just mentioned, because I had a similar experience where I had a listing and a first-time home buyer bought it, and they were so hung up on the price. They did not want to go. They were only pre-approved for 400, right? So in their head, they were we were listed at 409. They were well, we can't go above 400, right? And I told the other agent, I was my seller wants a certain price, but we're willing to give you concessions, right? I mean, for the seller at the end of the Alta, it's the same bottom line, but $5,000 off the price of the home on a 30-year mortgage is not going to make a whole lot of difference. But if you give $5,000 in seller concessions and you buy down your rate for $5,000, or it lowers your cash to close by $5,000, I mean, that can be a real difference, right? And
Absolutely.
Yeah, it took me a while to kind of break that through, even to the other realtor, and breaking it through to their client. And then I ended up speaking to the LO, and he's oh yeah, that would be even better. If we can get 5K in seller concessions, he's good all the way up to 415 or whatever it may be. So
right, exactly.
Great point. I'm seeing that a lot. It's just so much more helpful, that 5K in concessions versus, I mean, what's 5K off the price of the home on a 30-year loan? It's $10 a month or $15 a month, something like that, So
right.
So
that's a very good point.
Yeah, so I agree with that. So I'm sure, you being in Naples and Southwest Florida, you probably get a lot of people moving from somewhere else. No one is really from Naples. I mean, there's very few people that you run into in the grocery store that say, yeah, I was born and raised here. But you, having moved from the Northeast to Miami yourself, and then from Miami to Naples, what advice would you give to someone relocating to Southwest Florida from another city or out of state?
Yeah, so one, be familiar with our vegetation and wildlife. Kind of kidding about that, but that is true.
Yeah.
No, most importantly, everybody, exactly, the bears, the bears.
Yeah.
Everybody, they hear about sunny Florida and they want to move to Florida and so forth. And that's great. There's so many wonderful things about Florida, obviously, for many different reasons. But the one thing I see a lot of people forget about is, don't just look for the house, look for the lifestyle that you want.
Yeah.
Research, find out, do you want to be in a community because you want to meet new people? Do you want a community that has a restaurant? Do you want a place that's out in the middle of nowhere where nobody can bother you? You really need to understand the communities that you're looking at. We actually have an agent on our team that was a community lifestyle manager for several different communities. So she knows everything about all the different communities, what they offer. And to me, that's a valuable resource, because not only are we just matchmakers of homes, but also communities. So that way you can tell us, hey, when we're looking for this, this, and this is the kind of lifestyle that we envision. What communities would fit that? That's super important. I've seen plenty of people move from the north, come here, and they move into a house and they hate the community and they end up having another transaction in 2 years, which is great for realtors, but the goal is not to put somebody in a house to have them leave it in 2 years. The goal is to find them the home that is going to make them happy and give them the lifestyle they want.
Awesome. Yeah. I think a lot of people underestimate how local real estate can be, right? Even because when I moved from Germany in 2017 and I moved to Naples, and when you look at it on a map, moving from Naples to Fort Myers, which is where I live now and do most of my business, on a map, like you'd think, oh, they're the same thing, right? But as soon as you cross that Lee County, Collier County property line, I feel things really change very rapidly, right? Just like demographics. And like you said, what are you getting out of like where you live? Is it more like nightlife and food trucks, that kind of vibe? Or do you want more like luxury steakhouses, right? Or I don't know. It's so local. So I feel like a lot of people make the mistake. And then even in Collier County, like you said, right? You got the estates out in the middle of nowhere, quote unquote, right? You got 1 to 2 acres.
Used to be, not anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So quote unquote. Or do you want to be, Naples Park, like walking distance to Mercado, right? On the map, like sitting up in New Jersey, New York, it might not look like a whole lot of difference, but oh yeah, it is very different. So of course, that's where professionals like you and I come in to kind of have that knowledge. And it's interesting that you have a community lifestyle manager on your team. That's, I imagine, can be a great resource for sure. Because
absolutely,
there's HOAs and new amenities and new communities popping up pretty much everywhere. But
right, yeah.
And then
now the big thing is pickleball. People that they want to. And again, back to the advertising, that's something to advertise too. Like I'll put hashtags and things like that, the features of the community. Like if it's a pickleball community, put a hashtag, because there's people that actually search that, especially when we just had the US Open here. Every year we have that. When people are in town, they're like, oh, wow, that's cool. There's communities that have pickleball courts in them. And so little things like that, really the niche marketing of different features of the home or the community.
Yeah, the rise of pickleball. Who hasn't heard of it, right? So speaking of new construction, one thing that I'm always personally interested in, just like everybody, nice interior design and like that kind of stuff. And obviously, oftentimes you see stuff in the higher end market being implemented, and then it'll kind of over the years trickle through to the more entry level, let's call it, market, whether it be certain features, color choices, things like that. So talking about like newer construction on the higher end market, what are kind of some like unique features or colors or amenities that you have seen that high-end buyers are looking for in luxury properties right now?
We're definitely seeing a change in the color palettes. Like we're seeing more colors, we're seeing more metal type colors, darker colors. We're seeing the gold trims or brass look trims, darker walls instead of the gray and the beiges that we've had for the past few decades. Space, people are really looking for space, especially as I spoke about the multi-generational living, or even just visitors coming down and spending more time. So definitely more space, a lot of outdoor amenities people are really liking in their homes between the pools. And we've seen a huge uptick in pools, the extended lanais, outdoor barbecues, seeing a lot of pizza ovens and things like that now. So yeah, a lot of, just things that speak more to living their lives. Like before it was having just the regular house to fit everybody. Now it's more of the lifestyle in the home. And I'm sure a lot of that came from the experience with COVID and being at home so much. And we're still seeing that. We're still seeing a lot of wanting those lifestyles where there's more to enjoy at home.
Yeah, sounds like more. Would you agree? Correct me if I'm wrong. A little bit more functionality over pure aesthetics. Is that kind of what you're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Gotcha.
Absolutely.
Where 5 years ago, just all about how did my backyard look with my pool, and now it's more like how can me and my in-laws and mom and dad and whoever spend a nice weekend out here, right? Like with
exactly.
the people. So
yes. Yes, we're seeing a lot of offices, dens that have the Murphy bed that can also be used as an additional guest room and privacy, like with the shades, things like that. So we're seeing a lot more of that. So it's not just looks, but it's the functionality of it, as you said.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, cool. And then, yeah, I think it's long overdue to get away from the grays, the white cabinets and gray flooring, right?
Yes.
That's been the mantra for the last, I don't know, what, 10 years or whatever, but
Yeah, I think more. Yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah,
the beiges and then the grays. So
yeah. And I feel like now it's going more to like, I've seen a lot of like natural like wood, right? Or even like a stone flooring, kind of natural stone gray flooring with more like
yes.
natural like wood cabinets, and it looks amazing. I saw a spec home in Naples Park for like 1.8 million, and I still think about it. I mean, this was like 15 months ago, and they had beautiful like extra large like stone flooring tile, very neutral white quartz, and then these, bamboo color cabinets and very natural, like nothing really stained. It was amazing. They did a good job. I'm sure they sold it within days, but yeah.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more of the earth tone, natural mineral looks and things like that, and stone looks. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, awesome, awesome. And then are there any new luxury developments or projects in the works that you think
Yeah.
super interesting for buyers in Collier County? Like
There's
anything?
some really good luxury properties coming on the scene right now. We have a lot going on in the downtown area, like in a little bit south or on East Trail. I know we have Camus that's coming. We have, well, Valencia Trails, I do a lot of business in. That's the newer GL community out in off
Yeah.
of Immokalee. And it's almost sold out now, but there's still some good deals in there, actually. The Ritz-Carlton Residences coming over off of Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt Beach, right? You mean?
Seagate. Yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
they have one in like Vanderbilt Beach, right? Like as well.
yes, and also
Okay.
in Estero.
Okay. Yeah,
We
yeah,
have one in
Estero.
Estero.
Yeah, yeah, Estero.
Estero is that's a real interesting market right now. It's a very upcoming market. There's a community there, West Bay, that has their new high-rise residence going in the island. That's a really, really nice property that's going to be going in there as well. So yeah, there's some really good options. We're seeing a lot of new construction come on, especially higher end. And that's what's really helping to bring the prices at least not continue
Yeah.
to going up, but at least a little bit more stagnant because it's putting more inventory on the market. Not just there, but it's people that are in homes now that are moving to the newer construction. That's what's giving the inventory in the more established communities.
Yeah.
Bringing
Yeah.
the price down a little bit.
And I don't know how I feel about the Ritz-Carlton residences on Vanderbilt, because they got rid of Daruma, which was no, I'm just kidding, but it is where the old Daruma was, and I mean that was
Right.
like a Naples staples for decades. So
Yes.
I'm
So
sure,
true.
yeah, sure, a lot of people were upset about that, but I'm sure it's going to be beautiful. It's just going to help the market, obviously. And then you mentioned Estero. One thing, on the single family side, what I found a really, really interesting sector or corridor is like the Corkscrew area east of 75,
Yes.
like Polte's building, Lennar's building. I mean, there's so much land out there. They just approved 10,000 home development there, which is going to be like a second gateway. So, which is
Yes.
for Myers. So I mean, there is a lot happening there, like Corkscrew East, like that is.
Yeah, there's a lot. I
Yeah.
was just reading an article yesterday about that. They're putting all kind of entertainment stuff going back there too, really unique
Yeah.
facilities. And there's River Creek there, GL Homes. I've actually sold quite a bit in there. That's a great community. And that's right at the heart of the entranceway into that east corridor. So yeah, there's some really good opportunities out there.
Yeah, 100%.
Good time to get in Estero.
Yeah. Yeah, and GL Homes, they build a nice home. I used to have a friend that worked at River Creek or Stone Creek off Immokalee. And
Yeah, Stone Creek, yeah.
yeah, and beautiful homes. And I remember, I mean, you bite yourself in the butt, right, when you hear these numbers. But I remember in 2017, you could have gotten like an 1,800 square feet like home there for 375. I remember it, and man, I'm sure.
That's my market. That's my
Yeah.
farm area. I live in Stone Creek and
Oh, okay. Yeah, perfect.
yeah,
Okay.
that's one of my
Oh,
markets.
oh my
Stone
God.
Creek, Riverstone.
Yeah,
That whole
Riverstone.
corridor really, really expanded. And it's all GL and they do
Yeah.
a very nice build.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful home. I did one of my first ever open houses for a like top producing agent, Keller Williams in Stone Creek. So it'll always
Nice.
be dear. It'll always be dear to my heart. But Yeah, Angela, I mean, thanks for being on the show. To kind of wrap it up, I think we got a lot of valuable insight from you for sellers and buyers. We also have a lot of newer agents listening to this. So one thing I always like to finish with, you being very experienced, top producing agent, what advice would you give someone, a new agent that is looking to hit the ground running, achieve rapid success in our real estate industry?
Yeah, so I get that a lot. I actually am one of the field trainers for all of Southwest Florida offices for William Ravis.
What better
So I
person
work with all,
than so?
yeah. So I work with all the new agents, and one of the first things I always tell them is understand your integrity is most important. Never do anything to affect your integrity, because once you lose that, you lose everything. So what I said earlier about it being a business, that's one of the hardest things that new people coming in don't understand. They think they're just selling homes. So they learn how to take the test and learn about real estate and so forth. But what they don't learn about is the entrepreneurship, the skill set that you need for that. I encourage them. One of the things that I like to do is, and it probably comes from the business background, is kind of having a system in place. Take some time in the beginning to create your own systems, balances and checks, things like that. So that way you create it once and you just duplicate it over and over. So you're not halfway through a transaction, oh, did I do this? Or did I schedule the inspector? There's a lot of timelines that are important that you have to stay on top of. And so having that system that you use for yourself and whatever it might be, I mean, I happen to like Excel spreadsheets, so I do everything on spreadsheets. And so I just duplicate that and I have a whole timeline. And then that makes it easier for me to teach someone else the same system.
Yeah.
And so that I think is one of the key things, is to really get a system in place, make sure that you are allocating funds to marketing yourself, especially in the beginning, so people get to know who you are. And then don't be afraid to work. I mean, I know today is a little different than maybe when I grew up and was in business in the workforce and all that, with the mindset. It's a little bit different now. People really are more towards making sure they have time for themselves and so forth. And me, I'm like, I just go full at it. Like, I don't do anything halfway. I just go full force and all. So to me, it's like successful people don't find work as being something to be afraid of. Like, get in there and get it done. Do open houses, build your network, pick a farm community that you want to focus on so that you establish yourself as an expert in that community. And I think those are really the key things that I find to be most effective in starting out. Just do as much as you can to network, meet people. And if it's a commonality, so if you like pickleball, get into a pickleball group. If you like kayaking, get into a kayak group. And those are the people that are going to like you, know you, and then trust in what you're able to do. A lot of people come from different businesses or different backgrounds of work, and they get into real estate and they say, oh, I have a big database, I'll just reach out to those people. Most of those people are not going to trust you with a real estate transaction right out of the gate, because they might trust you as a person, but when you're talking about a huge financial transaction, they're probably not going to give you their business. So you need to surround yourself with a team of people, whether it's a team that you're working on, whether it's the company that you're with, leaning on those particular specialists. Like in my company, I'm never afraid to keep learning things and then calling on people that I might need some help with something. Like if I don't know the answer to a question, I'll go right to the expert, get the attorney on the phone, the mortgage specialist, the insurance specialist. Don't be afraid to ask people for help. You don't want to act like you know everything. You want to be able to be honest, give your opinion based on what you know. And then if you need to get more advice specific to something that they have a question on, tell them, be honest with them up front. Don't pretend like you know what you're doing when you don't. Just say, hey, I really need to check on that. Let me get the right answer for you and I'll get back to you. So just being upfront and calling on the experts around you.
Awesome. Great. Awesome advice. Couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, no, I mean, awesome advice from the bottom of my heart. And one thing that's cool about our industry, obviously, like work for us, obviously there's times where we really do like more traditional work. But when you mention don't be afraid of work, the cool thing about our industry, I feel like, is work isn't necessarily always work, right? I mean, if you go to a restaurant, happy hour and your goal is to talk to 5 people about real estate while you're drinking a margarita and hand out 5 business cards, that's work. But I mean, is it really?
Sure.
Right? That's definitely a cool thing I feel about our industry, right? And if
Right, exactly.
yeah, so work isn't, sometimes when I go to the gym, like you said with the kayaking group, like that's my gym, right? I've been there for a couple years and I'm starting to kind of get some traction there. And that doesn't feel like work when I talk to someone about real estate while I'm at the gym, right? So, well, thank you so much. Thanks for coming on the show. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Course. And then, of course, we will link all of your social media stuff down below. But if someone wants to get in touch with you, buying, selling, investing, Lee and Collier counties, anything from first-time home buyer to this is my 5th home across the United States, high-end luxury, what would someone get in touch with you, Angela?
Well, I know you're going to share the social media and so forth. Best number is our 239-598-1188. And then, of course, our website. I know you'll put it in the link.
Yes, yeah,
no, put it down, but
yep.
Yeah, so we'll share that. But yeah, website, we're on all the social media channels. So absolutely, we look forward to answering questions anybody might have and help in any way that we can.
Awesome, Angela. Well, thanks again. Thank you for your time. And sure our paths will cross out in the field again.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks so much.
Got
Much
it.
success to you on your podcast.
Thank you, Angela.
And that wraps up another insightful episode of the 239 Real Estate Roundtable podcast. I hope you enjoyed our discussions and gained valuable knowledge to enhance your home ownership journey here in Southwest Florida. A big thank you to our incredible guests and of course to you, our listeners, for joining us. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, or if you'd like to connect, feel free to reach out. You can find us on Instagram at KevinTremmel_real estate, on Facebook at Kevin Tremmel Real Estate, or visit our website, kevintremmel.com. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Your feedback is crucial and we're always eager to hear from you. Until next time, this is Kevin Tremmel, your host, signing off. See you on the next episode.